Holy crap, 204. So that's almost 2 years already. Okay, less than 2 years to be honest. Actually, more than 2 years. We do a few more episodes in between. Let's start with the meetup page. Chi Leong had
Meetup
lead the episode.
page.
Yep. One thing
Chilling
that
over there.
we have nothing happening. In fact, we have nothing happening until next year actually.
Well, next year will be Tuesday, which has been regularly having a meetup every month.
Yeah,
We'll be taking a break because the next Tuesday would be too close to New Year's, and
yeah,
we wanted everyone to have a good New Year and take a break.
correct.
So even maybe
Uh,
even next year would not be
yeah.
as packed.
So then after that is I'm going to find the Drupal event. We had a
Mm-hmm.
Drupal event coming in January as well. On January 7th on Saturday. I'm going to share the private. I'm going to share the link to private tab just because. No, I just share in public because why not? There's no harm.
Yeah.
It's an event that everyone should join anyway. Actually, I should put in private chat so that it's easy to copy. What the hell am I thinking?
Yes, correct.
So yeah, so Drupal event is happening after a long hiatus. So that happens. Um, yeah lah.
Yeah, Drupal hasn't had a meetup for a long time, so
Correct.
that's nice.
So they are actual Drupal developers, so I know them. Even though many people don't talk about using CMSs, but they're big here. They're one of the big one here. Previously, it's Joomla, then Drupal, then you got the framework guys. So yeah lah.
When
Looking
is
forward
this
to this
again?
next year.
Next year. So
Next year January, correct.
okay, do we have it? It's not
So
here, so we'll
no,
add
it's not
it
here. We
next
need to
time.
add it. Yeah, we'll add it. Correct, and that's about it for events actually.
Great.
So let's talk about news. Oh yeah, before that announcement, we're going to take a break for the next 2 weeks. We'll be back after January. Maybe even after the week after January because we got lazy and we ran out of topic. Let's see how it goes.
Okay.
So the first part is DVCX is actually part of Steam Proton. It's a way for them to actually able to run DirectX to Vulkan, I believe. So Intel is actually using that for their Windows Arc driver, which is very interesting because instead of using code that is native on Windows, they opt to use something that is from a third party to actually do the work. And the reason is very simple. On Windows, they already only support DirectX 10 and DirectX 11, and not DirectX 9 anymore. So the ABI layer may not be that good. So they use that to actually to convert everything to Vulkan. So apparently it works for Intel.
Yeah.
Interesting
so is this
because they
a
opt
good
to.
thing or not? Is
I
it good or
don't
not?
know, to be honest. Okay, it's good in a way that things like Steam Proton is more standard. As a result, you got better gaming support on Linux because Steam Proton is primarily for non-Windows machine, aka Linux, because they're building this for Steam OS actually. They do that originally for Steam OS, which happens to be useful for the Linux system. And one of the reasons for that is because Steam, the company, decided that they do not want to hedge bet only on Windows. And the way the iOS ecosystem is, they tend to do not like a third-party marketplace like Steam. I do not know how they have put it off now. Maybe it's an agreement somehow. So they opt to have a third-party support for a third-party operating system, right? In this case, they hedge their bet on Linux, and yeah. So it means that runtime works better. And that thing, Steam Proton do have their source code release, believe it or not.
Yeah. So I think that's good because if a proper graphics card depends on the open source drivers, then that
Correct.
means the company will be devoting some resources to actually supporting um, like the drivers, like fixing bugs, Like basically
Correct.
having someone take a look at it. Unlike, for example, the remember the backhoes from a few years ago where people are saying there's a lot of open source that a lot of internet infrastructure depends on, but nobody's looking at
Yeah.
it or nobody's paying for
Correct.
it. But at least this one is not the case.
Correct. And also, if you look a bit further, I do not know it's RTX Remix, but they also use the same code. They also use
Mhm.
DXVK. So
I
what is
guess
that
it
anyway?
says it's a DLSS3. I don't know.
Yeah,
What is RTX Remix? This is the link RTX Remix.
yeah. It probably
RTX
software support
4090.
for the for their code. I don't know. Honestly, I do not know, but
RTX
probably
Remix runtime. I don't know.
it's
Gotta
run the
check that.
DISS and stuff. Okay, that's about it. I know.
Okay.
So yeah, interesting stuff. We're gonna move on. The mass extinction of Unix workstation. This is a very interesting article because in the old days, in the 90s, there is several class of machine. You got the servers, you got desktop, then of course in between those is actually the workstation. Major operating system, we have a class of operating system for workstation, right? So they are
Yep.
supposed to be the thing that run your work software. Not in work software, I do not mean
Well,
Microsoft Words. We are talking about things like CAD
for rendering.
software,
Yeah, CAD, rendering,
rendering.
engineering. So if you're
Correct.
for example, if you're doing oil and gas, you have like
Yep.
simulations, you have all of
Correct.
these like, especially engineering, lots of like 3D
And
rendering, and all of these.
correct. And you want to build code, it's very likely to build on this workstation,
And they
not
are
on
so
your
expensive.
correct. It's very expensive. Then after soon later, Moore's law catch up. There's not much of a point really, right? There's not much of a point of having a workstation. But workstation is very interesting, not just because they are their own class of machine. Their desktop size, they are very capable. In some smaller company, they are the servers, right? They are the servers on the Unix world. But Linux do not have this phase at all. Windows have that through Windows NT. Unix have that to the proprietary Unix have that. BSD do not have that, I believe. Linux definitely don't have that. Linux jump directly to the desktop. In fact, it's very
The
well
PC.
known that people run a whole medium scale, I would say, infrastructure on a 386 in the age of Pentium, right? So they run the
Yep.
file server, very common. If you're good enough, you can run the whole website on a 386 with respectable load.
Well, there wasn't like that much of server processing, unlike what we have right now. A lot of the web
Correct.
right now is um, trying to emulate what Windows applications, like local applications, have been doing, but through
Correct.
servers. But before, when the web was first uh, like in how do you say it, like first thought of, it's really just text and links. It's the
Yeah.
hyperlink structure and rendering.
Correct.
I mean, if you're spitting out text, it's not a big deal. A lot of
And
like
Yep.
those BBSs are just really text. This is just
And
Correct.
it's just plain text.
Correct.
I mean, you didn't have
So
Node.js before, so a 386 should be enough. And then
correct.
once computers became more powerful, then now okay, maybe we can run JavaScript on the server, and then now you have
Correct.
like all of these things.
So this is actually a lesson because the author, if you go down below, the author actually found an old Unix workstation, a HPUX. The software is hard to get. You have to go through the pirate route and all that.
This one?
Yeah, correct. So it's not easy to run this for the first place. So this thing, a lot of this just means that this thing are meant to be extinct. Software is hard to get. You can only get it through back channel, right? It's just a lost art. Certain software just don't work anymore for various reasons. So it's mostly a lament. Go on.
I also knew some older gens Unix engineers that they cannot switch over to the modern OSs.
Correct.
Interesting. What are they looking for? Like what were they
Nothing,
used to?
just Unix. They are because Unix was so diverse. They
Mhm.
are hyper specialized in that particular flavor of Unix,
Mhm.
and
S-
they spend
I
their
can
whole
imagine
life doing
how.
that. Yeah.
I can imagine how, because what happened is, HP UXs, for example, and Solaris and Linux have different fork version of the same shell. So some of the utilities do not share the same flag. For example, XArch have a different flag between FreeBSD and Linux, even on the proprietary side. And on VSD, you do not use GNU utils, and the proprietary services definitely won't use that for reasons, right? So
Mhm.
so if you then it's like the modern day software developers that only specialize in one languages. Okay, I won't say modern day. We used to joke about the enterprise software and developers that only know Java or .NET or whatever, right? It's the same case for
Mhm.
enterprise Unixes. So
Yeah, well, that's
so the
that's the that is the biggest issue when you start specializing, is that you don't learn
correct,
anything else and you get left
correct.
behind.
Correct. So either way, this article is interesting because it's a mostly an adventure, because it's a lamenting about the death of this kind of hardware, and also some story that some of the very advanced engineer do get their skill from running this kind of system.
Hmm.
So anything to add? If not, I'm going to move on.
No,
Not really.
yeah,
Okay,
let's
let's
move
move
on.
on. This one is interesting because the Computer History Museum are releasing the source code of the original PostScript. So PostScript is very interesting because they are the one
This,
that leads to PDFs.
uh,
They're
this
actually
was the
interpreted
ancestor
on
of
printer.
PDF, right?
Correct,
Hmm.
correct. They're actually, even though it's proprietary, then they're opening up. They had to open it up because otherwise printer just don't work. Okay.
Yeah, so
Uh,
maybe that's like a big what they
Trajan.
call this misconception with PDF, is that it's like a picture, but it's actually instructions on how to
correct,
print something, which just
Yep.
is
correct,
like printing it is just the how to display it, right? So that's it's
correct.
their instructions, which is why when you have a PDF, then even if you resize it or like change the what they call this the size, it
Yeah,
still looks very very smooth because they're vector.
correct,
In the terms of vector, is that there are instructions on
correct.
how to do it.
So the reason why Computer History Museum released this is the 30 plus years. I think it's was it 40 years already? It's quite a long
It
time. This is
says
actually the
here 1990s,
it,
so yeah, maybe.
no, PDF in the 90s. PostScript is
Ah,
earlier. Can you go up?
uh,
I think it's part of the summary.
I think I'm younger than that.
Yeah, you definitely
mm,
one is younger than that. Okay, 40 years ago.
40,
It's 40 years ago.
1982.
So from the start system, so they actually Adobe made their money from there. Yes, they do Photoshop all that, but their business started from PostScript, desktop publishing.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, they evolved to what it is lah. And this is very important because those days, okay, imagine that printers early on would otherwise can only print very primitive thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
With PostScript, then you can have software to adjust your thing. Previously, you can only do that to LaTeX. LaTeX, unfortunately, is a language that you have to learn yourself. Having PostScript means they build tools around it, right?
LaTeX
So once you have that,
is it human readable, and PostScript is just binary
he's
format?
is human readable. LaTeX is an interpreted language. It's human readable. It's very similar to HTML in a way, but no, it's very different in syntax. Idea is
Mm,
very similar. LaTeX uh, formatting. Yeah, this one.
markup,
So
yeah.
markup, correct. And also, this is actually the language by Donald Knuth. Because
Hmm.
it's as a result, this is also Turing complete, by the way,
Yeah.
which is very
Well,
weird.
speaking of
So
Canuck, because it's what version number
yeah,
is
see
actually
here,
interesting. What's
correct.
the interesting?
So can
What's
you
the
go up
version?
go up, go up? Okay, down further. There's an image on how it looked like.
This one.
It
Typesetting. It's
looked
a
like your
okay. This one.
paper. It looked
So they
like your
actually
academic paper.
correct.
Hmm.
They will tell you how to it look like and all that. So this is how LaTeX look like, and they're very specialized. I would say they're specialized for academic papers, but academic papers revolve around it.
Yeah, we have a lot of these in academic, well, like in papers and
Correct.
theses, for example, a lot of equations,
Correct.
a lot of like mathematical symbols, and
Correct.
this is how it actually
Correct.
looks like, right?
So PostScript is nothing like I think they have something from LaTeX, but not everything. I do not know how much. They have the whole story, but so there's I do not know what's the reason why LaTeX do not ends up into the world of desktop publishing. PostScript does, but PostScript had a company supporting
Because
it.
it's
That's the reason
not
they built a
user
lot of
friendly.
tools. Could be that, definitely.
Well, there's a lot of like what they call this markdown plugins that support LaTeX, and then you can use.
Correct.
I mean,
Oh,
what
correct.
markdown is text, and you can just parse LaTeX. What they call
Correct.
this?
So there's a reason why the web does not go to LaTeX. It's called LaTeX instead of LaTeX.
LaTeX, yeah, it's not X.
Yeah. So the reason is, even though they have some of the same idea, it's just not there. Then after that, when as they go further to the web, they just add more things, because LaTeX will ends up rendering one static document like academic paper. Web can do a bit more. So either way, PostScript then lead to PDF, and it had their own language, and it can be interpreted on a printer, and that's a big deal. So you can work on a desktop, do your design, and send a printer. It's the same thing. As a result, you will get the whole document out with image and all that. So yeah, it's 1982. It's almost 40th anniversary of LaTeX, and thanks to them, we got a job among many things.
Well, yeah, and this is not just the programmers. This is like it heralded a new generation of desktop publishing software.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it used to be like you lay out things manually and then you send it to the
Correct.
printing press. Now the printing press has a copy of your PostScript file, and you don't.
Correct.
That's it, right? You just send them an electronic copy, and then that's
Correct.
publishing. And since your desktop application can output like PostScript, you don't have to write it manually. You can just drag and drop and all of these things. So especially since Apple did the mouse, there's new graphical user interfaces. Windows was getting popular, so this was all like a convergence of all of those technologies for desktop publishing.
Yes, and one reason why Apple survived for so long, even though when Steve Jobs left for so long in the 80s, 90s, is because they got Adobe have very good support for Apple devices. As a result, they have very good support for desktop publishing software, and they last so long because of that. So yeah, anything to add on this?
The designer's machine.
Correct.
Yeah, that was their reason to exist back then.
They also had the niche because I actually had the opportunity to work with Xserve, their own server, and back then it was that they also had this suite of software officially from Apple back then that does medical imaging, medical suites. So they had some niche services back then.
Yep. So
next one is
this one, Linux 6.1. This is not the technique. This is the summary. Instead of this is the human readable summary versus the technical one. So the first one is experimental support for Rust. So Rust may have support to maybe it's supported as a language as a Linux development language, not just for kernel, but for actual kernel development support. I can understand why. It's a bit scary, but I can understand why. So because you write operating system need a lot of unsafe things, but on the other hand, they provide all those. Maybe the Linux kernel can be safer, right? Then of course they got some.
Go on. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, and then I'll ask you a question.
Rust is a big one. The other one is the sound support. This is interesting for Chromebooks and all that, and that's about it really. These are two big things lah. So you probably won't use it quick as soon as you get, but this is the future for the Linux going forward lah. So you get Rust as a language, Rust as a language, and better hardware support.
Not Rust as a language. It's more like if you're a kernel developer, you
have options.
You're not. It's easier to write Rust as a kernel developer, because now you have like it exports actual Rust stuff for you to use.
Correct.
So I was going to ask like which distros do you think will use 6.1, because
usually it's
it doesn't do
usually it's like Arch Linux. Those are rolling, definitely get it. I believe Fedora may do it early because Fedora is more mainline than say Ubuntu. Ubuntu as a distro is more end user, so they opt to be a bit slower. So it's usually on this roller. So if you use Ubuntu, you will not get the latest. Actually, you will not get the latest of anything. You more likely get the latest thing on Fedora, and you get closer to upstreams look like from Fedora. Then of course, if you want to cut your fingers, then you use Arch Linux or whatnot lah. I'm too old for that shit. So as far as I'm concerned, Fedora is a okay one. Ubuntu simply because I don't want to change OS. Really, that's the only reason.
Looks like Apple Silicon Sound is now supported by the. Well, remember that because the Linux kernel is a monolithic kernel, so drivers are part of kernel. Compiled into it, at least in the releases, and so the biggest advantage of running a new kernel is that it supports the newer devices. So remember when Intel Alder Lake came out, and Linux support wasn't there, and so it was lagging behind, and it had to be like you had to run a newer kernel to even run the graphics.
Precisely.
So. And especially with the newer AMD chips as well. But there you go. So AMD Rembrandt, which is like the RDNA 3, I think.
Yes.
That's good.
And also there is some above. You look like there is some better support for Nintendo Switch controller. Yeah, just a minor thing, not a big deal. Okay, let's move on because I add too many links. My bad. This is Tauri. Tauri is an alternative to React.
Again,
what's the React mobile thing?
What's that?
How many React alternative that caught on?
This is actually I do not know how many.
Cargo, and it uses Rust.
This is Rust. This is actually a very new alternative to React. What's the React Native? So
React Native is for making it for the mobile phones.
Correct. This one use Rust. Second is they only support a certain way to write code, meaning only I do not know which one. They have a very limited way to write code, whereas a React query allows you to use React. So Tauri now they have alpha support now. They talk about it for a while. Previously, Tauri is an alternative to Electron actually. Now they go through the area of React Native.
Okay. Well, what I'm concerned is you have NPM, now you have Yarn, and you have something called Yarnberry. Okay, that's strange. And you have PNPM, and then I don't know. There's another one that we were talking about.
How many toolchain do you have? Yes.
How many package managers? What's up with package manager? Like Ruby has only one ever. It's always been bundler, like ever since it started. The package manager was started there. I think Rust has Cargo, and then Go has Go package.
Go.
Python is on pip for a long time. Then everything else is on top of pip.
When Go had something before with the modules, right? Yeah, easy.
Yeah. No, it's just Go.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they finally.
Yeah.
And then
so
I think Python has like Anaconda and Easy Install and
Anaconda distribution. I would say Conda is a distribution.
I see. Okay.
They use it's the same. They're not changing the structure of Python at all. They're using the same type of thing.
They're not
doing it. Correct.
Yeah, but this is just the 4 of them. But I know there are a lot more. and I am like confused why people like I don't know why JavaScript people just want to reinvent package man. Well, this is an example of just reinventing everything all over again.
Yeah, and they recently had a new they have a new package thing. What? No, it's called a bundler thing, which is written in Rust for some reason.
There's Webpack. There's I think that's ES Build. ES Build is the builder.
Then and there's a new one that's written in Rust. So
and there's roll up, and then there's like all of these like minifiers.
Correct. Yeah, it's crazy.
Sorry for.
Either way, if you now you have yet one more option to write mobile app in JavaScript. Tori is originally to write Electron. It's an Electron alternative. Now they are ported to mobile.
Yeah, I feel this is like a JavaScript. The JavaScript environment is really like Hunger Games type of situation. Like they just have different things, and then whoever gets the more support, like there. NPM has the first mover support. Yarn has the next first mover support.
I would say they survive on GitHub stars.
Yeah, it's essentially a bazaar style of software development, meaning you can do whatever you want. Then sometimes it's a popularity contest, right? You can do whatever you need, then Okay, so this one, somebody will say it's Malaysia, but you know what? Forget about what they say. We lost the guy a long time ago because the country do not give good support for a lot of stupid reasons. They go to Singapore here and he's successful, he deserves it. That's what I'm going to say about this story, okay? So if someone go and say that the guy is a Malaysian, fine, right? But the thing is, this country does not support him enough that he had to go to another country to do whatever he need to do, right? So as a result, Singapore got the name, he got the technology, he sold it. I do not know how successful he is now, but it is what it is, right? So I don't whatever lah. So in this case, maybe he live in Geylang and start there, fine, right? So so either way, this is a story of how Pendrive comes from, and I usually do not like to talk about that because you raise a lot of things about the Malaysianness and all that. No, you fuck up. Okay, you fuck up because you do not support your own people for stupid reason. Okay, before that, I'm going to stop this, but this is a cool story for Asia. Yes, I'm triggered because we as a country fuck up, okay? And people fuck up for other reasons. So and now we are repeating the same thing actually. So I'm going to move on. But yes, this is a story of Pendrive lah. This one.
Well, Pendrive is a different thing. The thumb drive apparently is the original.
Yeah, this one. Okay, so the problem with ChatGPT, the problem with language model as doing something this much. A language model do not have logic. Okay. If you do you know the Chinese box experiment?
No, what's up with the Chinese box?
Okay, so in the when people try to
the one in the middle, and you're passing in slips of paper, and someone is translating.
Correct. So I'm going to say in a more concrete form than what Tristan is saying. So the Chinese box experiment is actually a thought experiment. A box experiment, right? It's a thought experiment by a philosopher called John Searle. So the argument here is that humans' ability, a computer ability to understand, to look intelligence does not necessarily translate to actual intelligence, because you put a person in a room with a dictionary and everything, you pass back Chinese and return Chinese. That doesn't mean the person can speak Chinese. It just means that they can fit symbol. So this is my argument about GPT-3. Yes, you can pass IQ test. What I'm arguing also is that this is a damn good system.
I actually had the conversation this morning.
Yep.
It is a parrot.
Yeah. So and the reason why they are so good at programming is really because they're parroting whatever Stack Overflow that's open to be used for training. because Stack Overflow had a big thing. So what I'm arguing here is that GPT-3, aka ChatGPT using GPT-3, is actually a Chinese box. That's why I'm arguing to you, right? And also,
so it's not AI, right? It's not AI in the
no,
sense
it's not,
that
because
actually can make decisions.
and more importantly, they can't
creative thought.
explain. They can't explain. I do not believe that they can explain it because there is no logic subsystem in the language model.
It's based on the data. It's the model that builds.
Correct. So what I want to bet here is that modern chat system will introduce an old component from expert system to drive their logic. It's called a production system. So what a production system is actually a database system in expert production expert system. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Damn it, people don't talk about that system anymore. So in the early day of AI, we had a thing called expert system, right? Unfortunately, the name is so generic.
It's still being used right now. Like it's especially in call centers when you ask for support, they are going through an expert system. Like you tell them what your problem is. They ask you to troubleshoot something, and then you tell them the response, and then they're actually following steps on an expert system in call center.
The problem with expert system, I personally in private, we should share it in public. The problem with expert system is that they are very limited they do not learn things, meaning that you only if my scene, for example, are loaded with databases or facts about meningitis, they would not work for another disease. This is actually the problem with
there's no self-learning or like auto-learning in the sense that it learns by itself. The expert system needs someone else to add knowledge so that it will work.
But GPT can learn. You can potentially make it learn new thing. But the problem is the new thing do not necessarily backed by fact, because it's not a logic system that do not have knowledge. So one good thing about this,
it's more like it doesn't have the ability to weigh which one they should like fiction versus non-fiction or something like that.
Correct.
Right? Like which is actually correct knowledge and which is like knowledge that is knowledge, but you shouldn't use to make decisions on or base decisions on.
And because the old expert system, one thing they do have that chat system don't have is the ability to explain themselves. They can trace back the reasoning. What is the fact that leads to this answer, right? This is something the chat system don't have. And by the way, this is my opinion. This is not what the article is about. What this article is about, that you need explanation from ChatGPT before they comes up with the text. So yes, so it goes to that. ChatGPT is not. It's a language model. It's not a logic model. Do not treat it. It happens to produce good code because if you had a whole system trained on Star Wars fact, of course, and you ask them Star Wars fact, they will give you good Star Wars quote, right? And suddenly, if you train on science fiction, of course, they will mix between Star Wars and Star Trek effectively well. And this is what GPT-3 have done, right? Because coding a Stack Overflow release a big corpus of that. Yeah, it's a parrot. It works well. It doesn't check if it makes sense, right? Chinese box. So it's called the Chinese room, whatever. I don't care about. It's like do you know about the Turkish, the Turk, mechanical Turk, the origin of the mechanical Turk?
No idea.
So in the 1800s, what happened is there's this machine that actually can play chess. So all the nobles is like, oh my goodness, it's so impressive. What happened is there's a small.
It's not just playing chess; you can actually beat people.
Yes.
Because before you can play chess, but it doesn't have any intelligence, right? It doesn't know how to beat you.
Yes. Again,
turns out there's somebody in the box.
Correct. I'm going to share this. I'm going to collect all these links somewhere. So either way, this is my comment on GPT-3 .
Okay, let's move on. The links can be on the
website.
on the website after show notes or
Correct.
something.
Okay, we already repeat whatever they want to say. So
Yeah, well, it does say, like I said, this is desktop publishing. I didn't know
yeah,
about this,
correct.
but it is.
This is a bit more technical, lah.
Mhm.
This is the more detailed tribute of Frederick Brooks, the
I thought
author
we covered
of.
that last week.
We covered that. This is the more detailed obituary, lah.
Okay.
So they
Mhm.
actually tell them the actual technical breakthrough, lah. So
Okay.
read through it. This is why people respect him.
What
Dial
is this?
is a web-based hardware simulator. So this allows you to simulate electronic circuit on a breadboard. I do not know what's a microcontroller they support, but they definitely can do the basic thing.
This is pretty good.
Yeah, this is actually pretty good.
And pretty safe.
Correct. So I do not know how well this will replace actual hardware development. But
Let me pop my power stuff because
I would say it's
very
good
slow
for
right now.
learner as well.
Correct, definitely.
So it's simulating the flow of energy as well. Like the capacitor has a voltage level, and so if
Yep.
I do it like this, see it does raise up, and then you'll see that this is the LED is slowly losing brightness because the voltage level is slowly
Correct.
falling.
Correct.
That's interesting.
Can you click on explore, see whether there is better other circuit that is being simulated?
Yes.
There's community project. There's quite a lot. So they already do Arduino simulation, standard stuff. But Blink is easy, but they can simulate more interesting stuff. I want to know. They simulate the 555, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the 555 is a very predictable circuit, but yeah, if we can match things up, then impressive, to be honest. Unfortunately, it also depends on the browser, so if you render too many things, it'll be a bit slow, of course.
Yeah, it is a bit slow.
Yeah. So see the 555 there, then all that. Yes, I'm impressed, actually. Call me impressed. Maybe one of these days an AI.
It's good, but the thing is, this is a bit of an interesting issue because one, you're going to simulate because it's expensive to do it yourself, right? To
Correct.
get the components and buy. But the flip side is that your simulation is going to be so slow unless you have a really good computer, and instead of buying a fast computer, just buy the components, right?
Yes, correct.
So
because in this
a
case,
bit of a strange place here.
Yes, correct. The 555 is not expensive at all, to be honest. This thing is like less than 10 ringgit potentially. Okay, lah.
Yes, no. At least all of these that I've seen so far are like what do you call this? They're cheap. I haven't seen a complicated simulation, and at the same time, I feel that a more complicated simulation would require a faster computer. Because I was thinking already of a possible application here, which is like on a classroom setting. You don't want to keep on like destroying components, or at least like having students experiment. Like, what if I do this? What if I do that? Right? But if you are going to need a very, very fast computer or powerful computer to simulate anyway, might as well give your students or buy your students the actual hardware and let them experiment on it.
Correct.
So yeah, and let's see how it works. Because
so
it's a strange place in terms of cost right now.
Correct. So okay, we're done with this. Let's skip the next two. No, don't close the tab. This is the juice of the next two. Sorry. No, close this one. Keep OWASP top 10. Keep real world engineering. Quickly go through the last three tabs. Somebody show you how to use OpenAI to solve advent of code, just because with example and all that. Precisely what I said. It works. Maybe read from GitHub. So
is it a meta advent of code? You write software to write solutions for advent of code.
Correct.
And your test case is if it passes all of advent of code test cases.
Yes, apparently. I do not know how it works, but it's an example to use AI to take away fun, but sure.
No, the fun is to write. So to write a program that writes a program that solves
Correct.
advent of code.
So,
That's why it's a meta advent of code.
yeah, correct.
Like
So
this would be
just
like
because
for people who just like what they call this, like they find advent of code too easy, so they make things
correct.
more interesting.
Yes, it's
Of
the
course,
ultimate jack shaving.
Yeah, the script kiddies, of course, will find that just use will find joy in just the using of it, but that's not the point of it. Right? The point is that you were able to write something else to solve.
Correct.
It's a what is it? Rube Goldberg sort of thing.
It's the ultimate jack shaving. I would say that. Next one is okay, do I want to talk? Okay, maybe go to the last one. Then we go through one by one.
What is this now? Different word. Vendor ops. There's so many.
So essentially, okay, so this is just a book on natural language processing. So you want that, just go through that. We're done on the last part. So this one is very interesting because the argument here is the way we okay, so this one, just know that we had a natural language NLP course, so we're done with that. Now go through this one first. Cloudy layer on modern software development. Right? This one is the argument for this article is the way we build software is too crazy. We are offloading everything in, which is good or bad. But what he said that the handling the vendoring is also a whole madness by itself. We are shifting from one to another, right? We're shifting our task from actually building solution to managing different things together. That's what they're talking about. So the argument here is that instead of managing only the code that we write and all that, we manage the infrastructure because all that. Then after that, we up to a level that we are managing. We are doing the work to manage different systems doing different things.
The behavior of the different versions.
Oh,
correct.
Well, what's interesting is that it mentioned, I think in a very old episode of DevKami, we mentioned this. Although we didn't say it's a cycle, but it is a pendulum of going from mainframe processing and then centralized and then becomes distributed, becomes centralized.
Decentralized, and we go back to centralized again.
Yes. So this is interesting for the opinion. And
maybe the guy
on his own.
Or the girl or whoever the author is, they were watching DevKami and then they just told her.
Yes. And also because this person also do a lot of machine learning, which I use Colab, which is another set of madness, right? Because your infrastructure sucks at training, Colab is cheap at training. You need to pass things here and there is crazy. So it's insane.
The swimming gets this a lot, the session crash, right?
Yes. So it's just an opinion. It just thinks that things go crazy and that's all. So anything to add on this? If not, we just say that we already know. We're gonna repeat again next year. This one is very good and bad. Good in a way that they're focused on company that choose different technology. Good is there's two good here. One, they actually tell the story of why they really choose one technology over another. And they actually explain the reason if you go further down with links and all that. The bad thing is they have a focus on people choosing very specific type of technology against the norm type of technology, I would call it.
But it's not really that it's bad, it's that it fits whatever they want to do.
Correct. In this case, they have a very good reason to do it, and they tell you the good reason, they tell you why they choose that. So in this case, for example, they choose Kafka because ReplicateMQ is not really that great for WebSocket at their level. For some reason, I don't understand.
And also the micro-patching for Kafka. Kafka is micro-patch.
Yeah, correct. So in this case, it works
so it increases the throughput if you have a lot of messages.
Correct. Precisely. So the whole article is multiple company choosing multiple solution and the reason why they choose that. This is the good part. The only minor thing I want to complain about is they have a focus on choosing very weird technology over why people choose the norm over this, right? So in this one, they tell you why they choose micro front end. In this
I
case,
still
they got
understand
themes.
what the micro front end is about.
It's just a way to actually, to be honest. But apparently, I don't understand in a way that they only have 3 front end engineers, or was it more? Maybe they got a bigger team. I do not know, to be honest.
So it means everyone work on their own component. There's nothing really special.
Yeah, there's nothing really special except they have their own architecture behind it, so I don't understand.
So maybe it's this one. As a startup, we need to ship fast, which means please don't do my code. Please don't do code review. I just need to get this shipped. And so just work by myself. Is that's what's happening here? I'm not sure.
And also apparently it make the test run faster. I do not know actually. Still, they had a reason for it. That's a point. Autonomy for team, I do not know anymore. I don't believe in that anymore, to be honest. I have another story, but that's next year because we're on holiday starting next week. And I probably have more story. Or for example, why Metal Bear use Rust? Fine. They have a reason for it. Go use it.
What you want to do.
Yeah, correct. In that case, So either way, this is good in a way that they show you the reason why. And so just understand the reason. Just don't jump.
What is this? VS Code supports only JavaScript? What is this?
Extension.
Okay. For extensions. Okay.
So
you don't have to write it in JavaScript. Okay.
So either way, understand the reason. Read this article, understand the reason. Please don't jump blindly. So just because they have something that's one part is similar to you, understand for real, because those are commitments, right? So So anything you want to add on this?
Choose technology that you are more familiar with, so you know.
Correct.
When things goes wrong, you know what's going. It's not that we are not supposed to test new things, but do not use production as a mean to test our hobby.
Correct.
So what I found, at least in this, is like I'm now aware of Kotlin multi-platform, which is I guess writing iOS applications in Kotlin.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems to be an interesting one, because now you do an Android first development, and then basically just port over to iOS.
But it also depends on the quality of the bridge and stuff.
Correct. So so this is one story, and that's about it really. Anything to add? If not, let's go to the next one, the overall top 10. So this is another top 10, but this one only on CI/CD risk. So they cover things like insufficient flow control mechanism.
I think I violated all of them.
Yeah. So for example, a lot of people will probably break number 2, number 3. Number 4 is a real risk. Number 5.
It sounds like
number 6.
You know,
number 6 definitely.
Yeah. Number 7.
Yes.
Number 8.
Yes.
Improper artifact integrate value. Okay, we had a SHA-256 now. And insufficient logging. Yeah. Correct. This is very good because so this is very good because build system is not part of the system. People just throw it and get it done, and that's it.
Often we give them more privilege than we need to.
Correct. So for example, in the old days, your Jenkins server runs in root so that you can spawn the shell and run things, even though you should not to, but you did that anyway. When you write your bloody test, you have access to a bloody database instead of using fucking.
Well, that is something that the CI/CD cannot control. Is that it's just
correct?
It's just executor.
Correct. In this case, it's our responsibility, right?
But of course,
insidious
depending
is
on how it is spawned as well, is how we set up the CI/CD.
correct. Because when you do integration, then you really need some for database, and you need to be careful about this. So yeah lah. I mean, I break half of them lah, to be honest. Oh my god, this is humiliating.
At least,
but
I'm guilty. Yes.
okay, knowing the problem is the first step, as they say, right? So the reason why they have this thing now is because
there's a meme, right?
supply
Knowing
chain
is half the
half of the battle. Yeah, that, and also knowing.
G.I. Joe.
There's also another one, knowing. I get it from the newsroom where they say why America is the greatest country in the world. Knowing the problem is the first step toward whatever. I don't remember.
They're all after the G.I. Joe generation. It's just a rehash of this. What they call this? Knowing is half the battle.
Correct. So now they had a top 10 for CI/CD, and for supply chain, because supply chain attack is a real thing. Either you get a package by accident or not, it's a real thing. So but once you have that, then you expand to other thing, right? You connect to database, you make your system, you do not secure your what properly, you do not secure your access.
Just because you want the
properly.
convenience of wanting to set up all dependencies properly, you give it more privilege than you, like root access to be able to advocate for you.
Correct.
I mean, it's a balance between convenience and security. Like, just get everyone access.
Well, if the server is isolated, it's fine.
Yeah,
it depends on how you.
It's the same as the
there's no such thing. There's no such thing. That's what I'm trying to say.
You have air gap systems, right? Where you never get access outside.
It's a CI/CD is an executor on its own. So it's it's an executor. So literally,
this is similar to the access control given by Windows and Linux or Unix systems, right? In Windows, you're automatically root until they started adding this escalated privileges, and privileges you can still control like the mouse, and then you can automatically click on yes at that point. So it's still
nowadays it's less on that. Nowadays the attack probably won't be like running a shell on your build system, because yes, your I give you an example, right? Your GitHub action, yes, that thing is a shell in a way that it will spawn a container to run things, right? When you need to. But now, which is why the attack is less toward like you got root access to execute thing. It's more like you do not care about in between somewhere for reason that you do not catch it. Somebody inject a raw URL in your environment variable. They overwrite one of the package. Yeah, they overwrite your packages so that they in between the code they have a code. They inject a code that will download a payload, right?
That's often what happens.
Yes,
it's like it's like bundling while doing your CI/CD. So that's
correct.
Going from
it is
third-party resource.
Correct. It is less like you run your code and it will do things, right? That comes later. It's not like you download something and okay, you will do that, but less toward having a shell, more of having your library doing stuff that you forgot about. So this is what the build system thing is about, right? So bad package, bad environment variables, leak environment variables. That's a big deal. Leak environment variables, your system access to a production database because you're stupid, right? Etc. I need to find out for real, but yeah, we're probably guilty of half of those for various reasons. So you should take a look at that. Even though just because you use the cloud doesn't mean you are safe from this. So yeah, learn from it. It's a good thing. So, and that's about it, actually. Anything you want to add before we go on?
No, not from me.
It's a good reminder of things that I have to do properly.
Yes, I know. I'm horrible at that as well. It's just that recently, operations is not my priority. It need to be priority, but we are on delivery mode, so yeah, just one of those things lah. We in delivery mode and all that. So just need to be careful lah, and just remind yourself that even you're on delivery mode, safety is important, because if anything do get leaked, it's on you, not on someone else. So especially more senior you are, the more responsible you are to
To
the
let
thing that get
hubris get to
delivered.
you.
Yes.
That's
So
that.
yeah, it's just a
None of us
reminder.
are invisible.
Correct. So just be careful, be safe, and hopefully, like us, you got an enjoyable holiday, because don't let all this incident
Wait,
cause you to take away
did,
your
did,
holiday.
did we have a holiday? How come I didn't have a
No,
holiday?
DevKami will. I'm
Okay.
announced that DevKami will not be on air until early next year. Even that,
Yes.
which week for early next year, I do not know yet. Right? But I try my best to
Well,
actually add the news as well, so that you guys will keep having the news and all that lah. So yeah, that's about it. So shall we say goodbye, or you have something else to add? If not, we
What?
go.
no. What else is there?
No, actually, I need to make sure I need to copy all my private chat, so that I can put on the on the other link that I forgot about.
Mm,
For the it's called Notepad Plus Plus. So with that said, thanks for listening.
Good night.
Yeah,
Have
we'll see you next year.
stay safe. Don't die. Stay
Yes,
alive.
correct.
See you guys
And
next year.
COVID is real. Okay, bye.
Oh, it really is, and it's sick.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Oh, I have it on my tab.